This episode of SpectreSoundStudios is brought to you by Distrokid.
Glenn, I love your show, but for the love of humanity, stop telling people I'm not real! I'm fucking real, damn it!
Yeah, sorry about that, Jesus. My bad. Hey everybody, it's Friday. It's time for SMG Viewers Comments, the show where I try and answer your questions to the best of my ability. Before we get started though, please do me a favor, hit that fucking subscribe button. It just goes a very long way into helping things out. Believe me, it makes all the difference in the world. Anyway, let's skip the bullshit and get right to it.
Hey Glenn, what's a good way to get rid of all the nasty frequencies in a guitar track? I've been isolating my frequency with Reaper's Real EQ, but there has to be some simpler, more streamlined way than putting on the Ghostbusters suit and siphoning them one by one.
Yeah, you fucking wish. Yeah, the simplest way is maybe adjust the microphone a little bit, make it a little brighter, make it a little darker. That's usually the preferable way to do it as opposed to just using EQ as a fix. But if you're using impulses, you get resonances because impulses are only a snapshot of a speaker, not the actual thing as it's moving, so you will get weird peaks and whatnot. I like to grab an EQ and do real narrow notches. What I'll do is I'll crank it up all the way to maximum gain on one particular band and nearly the thinnest I can and just sweep it through the frequency band until I hear a whistling, then I'll carve that out. Should really do a video on that at some point because I've been messing around with some new EQ techniques, mainly doing low pass filtering, which I haven't done for a long time, and it seems to be working out in digital a little bit better. I had a debate with Ulrich Wilde about this a couple of years ago, and he was like, no, that's where all your air is, and I'm wondering if things are a little too bright. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to put the question to you guys, though. Are you low passing your guitars? And if so, at what frequency? 8K, 10K, 12K? I want to hear from you guys. I just kind of want to get a general feel for what's going on out there. Next up, we've got a video question from my very good friend, Henning Pauly from the channel HP42 Studios. Let's see what's up with Henning.
Glenn, you old douche nozzle you, huh? I have a two-part question for you after I take a little bit of a sip from my favorite cup. So, wait a second. Hey, you do lots of reamping. And question number one, what do you use for that? Because when you go out of your audio interface, which you have to, so you're recording a DI signal, I get that. And then you have that DI signal as a backup or whatever. And then you go out of your audio interface, but that's a line signal. What box do you use to convert that back into an instrument signal for reamping? I know there are reamping boxes. I know that the Torpedo Reload does that, but what do you use? And secondly, why the fuck do you do that? Because I understand that there's some situations where that might make sense if you're recording at home and you have a shitty amp or whatever, but I am hardcore against reamping because I think that the amp is an extension of your instrument in your hands, and how you react to the amp is a big thing. Now, if I'm recording a DI signal with some software or some shitty amp, and then I send that to a studio and they dial in a sound, it's not how I would have played it with that amp. It's not the performance I would have done with that amp. It becomes a different performance, I think. I might have played chunky, I might have picked differently. The amp has more or less sag, more or less gain. Defend your position on why reamping is something you do. And let me just take another sip to remind you of what I think of that position. Love you, man.
Wow, I am absolutely amazed. Henning Pauly actually managed to make a point in under 2 minutes. And if you ask his girlfriend, that's not the only thing he does in under 2 minutes. Okay, the short answer, and I said this a couple weeks ago, and if you actually watch my fucking show, you might already know the answer to it. The reamp box I'm using is the Signal Art reamp box by my friend Chad Kelly. I've used a lot of different reamp boxes over the last 15 years or so, and this smokes them all by far. This thing is absolutely fucking killer. It definitely looks a little bit home built. He's got a new version of it. It looks a little bit more pristine, shall we say, but it's kind of like the Millennium Falcon. It's got it where it counts. I really should do a reamp box shootout at some point, and you guys can hear exactly what I'm talking about. But as per your second part of the question about changing the tone and whatnot, I've got a very long history with reamping going back to about 2005. And for me, it was my safety net. I'd take a dry track because I'd have clients come in And in some cases, I wasn't happy with the tone I had dialed in at the point of tracking, and I was able to go back with the exact same amp, same speaker, same everything, and just tweak things out a little bit. I mean by like moving microphones millimeters or adding a second microphone in and maybe just changing the amp settings slightly. But it's all variations on a theme. It's not like, changing the amp head out from like a 5150 to a Sun Beta lead where you're going to get massive differences in tone. In fact, I think it was very rare that I've ever changed out the amp head except in a few extreme situations, most notably the song Everything that was on the Queensryche Frequency Unknown record, because the tone that they gave me was absolute dog shit and I wanted something better, so I wound up using my 5150. Now this is the thing, I'm not just on my own here. A lot of people will say this, that the differences between a lot of different guitar amps are pretty minor. Old England had a video out a couple of years ago called All Amp Heads Sound the Same. And to a certain extent, he's right. The differences between a 5150, a Rev, and a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier are pretty small, especially if you don't change out the cabinet. In this case, it's like varying a guitar impulse as opposed to changing the actual performance. One case where it did really save my ass, where I had a band come in and we tracked a record through a 5150, and I found this whistling sound in the tone, and it turns out there was a bad preamp tube where one of the elements had actually kind of rattled loose. So I had to swap out the tube, and I was able to take that guitar player's performance and reamp it through the same amp, same settings and everything, and I got a much richer sound. So reamping can definitely save your ass in that kind of case. These days, I'm not doing a lot of reamping except where I bring in guest musicians. I've had Jackson Ward and John Suki on the show quite a bit recently, and a great case where we reamped a track was when we did that Steve Vai module for Synergy. John and Jackson did that track in Indiana, and I reamped it in LA through the Vai module. And yes, it completely changed John's tone, performance, and we didn't get a Steve Vai feel at all. So while you might have a theory about how reamping changes things, I have evidence which suggests otherwise. So please put that up your meerschmom and smoke it, you smarmy German bastard.
Hey Glenn, what's your opinion on ribbon microphones and how easy is it to break them? Is the sound they produce worth the money and the risk?
Ribbon microphones are great on like guitar cabinets and whatnot if you like pair them up with a 57. Like your 57 will be your bright mic, and then you can use a ribbon as a darker mic, and then you can blend with faders and that kind of thing. And they're really cool. I've got a bunch of different ribbons. I've never been able to break one yet. One of the Discord fans was nice enough to send me this. This is from Denmark. This is a Bang & Olufsen ribbon microphone. Unfortunately, this one does not work. So if anybody knows where I can get this repaired or parts for it or something like that, and maybe get the magnets swapped out, that'd be really cool, because I got a feeling this mic could be a lot of fun to use. If you're looking for cheap ribbon mics, you can check out the Cascade Fathead. That's really good. Art makes the exact same type of mic. It looks like they all come out of the same factory. I know for a fact Lewitt has a new ribbon microphone coming out. Can't wait to try that out. And I got this as well. This is the Rode NTR, stands for New Technology Ribbon. It's got this giant magnet in the bottom of it, or weight, or I don't know what the hell it is, but these things just sound absolutely fucking stellar. It's got a little screw thing you put in place to keep the ribbon element from floating around. These are great on room mics. I even used them as a room mic on a guitar amp. I thought it added a real nice kind of ambience to metal guitar, just to have these backed off about 10 feet and just bring it in ever so slightly. Really cool stuff. So yeah, there's all kinds of options out there. Really depends on your budget, but ribbon mics can definitely be an awful lot of fun. All right, this episode of Viewers Comments is brought to you by Distrokid, my favorite service to put music out to online retailers like Apple Music, Amazon, Google Play, and Spotify, plus over 150 smaller online music retailers as well. It costs a whopping $20 a year, and you get to keep 100% of your earnings. Distrokid also has lots of cool features, including instant verification on Spotify, change your image on Apple Music and iTunes, and add credits and liner notes to stores and streaming services. And there's a brand new synced lyrics feature, so you can have the lyrics play along to your Instagram and Apple Music posts. This is especially great if your singer loves to cup the mic and nobody can understand him. You can also use the Teams function, which allows you to split your earnings automatically among your bandmates, so you can stop explaining to the bass player how he'll get paid, and you can get back to making music. I use Distrokid to put my music online, including this channel's theme song, The Eagle Has Landed, and we even got a license for Distrokid for that cover of Moon on the Water we did a while back. Go to distrokid.com/VIP/Spectre today and grab yourself a 7% discount on the first year. Follow the link in the description below. Now back to the show.
So you wanna be a little bitch? Just stop complaining and listen to this. 'Cause now you're on the Butter of the Week.
This fat idiot never produced or recorded a good tone. Remember the time when he stuck a SM57 on a VD30 and said it was his dark mic? DD. There's no saving people like this.
Yep, never produced a good sound in my life. Didn't get to do Queensryche. That's totally not my reamped guitars on Despised Icons Montreal Assault. Yep, never did anything worthwhile in my entire life. Here's the thing, a 57 on a Vintage 30 can be dark if you move it away from the center. That is, if you actually think outside the fucking box and try something new! You can have bright 57s, you can have dark 57s. All depends on where you place the mic on the speaker. Hopefully I explained that in terms even you can understand.
Sorry, very boring video. Not very heavy stuff at all. You did Rev a complete disservice. Ola made an awesome video to show the incredible tones that this pedal can do. You might have just played Justin Bieber, it would have been the same. Sorry with your softcore metal.
Yep, my tones suck and I've never helped Rev at all. Thank you for that brilliant observation. Next up, another video question.
Hey Glenn, been watching your content for a while now, and one thing I've been wondering is, do you at any point plan on doing more coverage of Lunchbox heads? Like mid-range stuff like the 6505 MH or the PV Invective, or even like one of these little EVH guys. Cheers and fuck you from Frostbite Falls, Minnesota.
Wow, I think he really wants me to check out the EVH stuff. Holy shit. I did the Joyo Mjolnir. That was a really fun amp. And I did a Houston Kettner as well, Tubemeister Deluxe 20, I think. Me and Christian Vey did something like that. Now, I would love to check out the EVH or the 6505 MH, that kind of stuff. I think that would be a lot of fun. Is that something you guys would like to see on the show? I'm very curious. Oh yeah, and I also did a video on the Rev G20 microhead. Apparently I was doing them a complete disservice though.
Hey Glenn, I have a question. I'm like 23 years old and I live in Syria and I wanted to play guitar my whole life, but I never got the money to buy one. And my parents didn't help me since I was a kid, and it got harder since the war started 10 years ago. Anyway, I finally got the money and I can buy a guitar. What are your advices for someone who is starting to play guitar at old age and wants to learn everything he could possibly learn about music? Thank you.
Jafar, that's fucking awesome. Thank you so much for writing in. I love hearing from guys from all different parts of the world and whatnot. Welcome to the show and welcome to the Discord. And if you guys out there haven't joined my Discord, please do. Links in the description below. It's a great way to learn to make better records and just an awesome online community. And we are a jerk-free zone, so if you misbehave, you will get the boot. We're there to help each other, not fuck each other over. Anyway, on to Jafar's question. Number one, you're never too old to start learning. All you have to do is put the time in. Now, obviously, you can hang out on my Discord and learn some stuff there, but you can also check out ultimateguitar.com for all kinds of amazing tabs. There's lessons available online from a million different YouTube guitar players and whatnot. Talk to Garrett Peters. He's a really good friend of mine and just an awesome teacher and an awesome guitar player. He's a great guy to learn from. It really depends on your situation, where you are and where you want to learn. There's definitely no shortage of knowledge out there. All you got to do is just look for it.
Hey Glenn, these days I don't have much of the gear or the space to record real drums, but something I've done for like 30 years in such situations is to try to make sure I can put at least a real hi-hat on a track. It's amazing the humanizing effect it can have, especially if an electronic kit is being used and you avoid quantizing everything to death.
All right, that goes on for quite a bit, and I don't want to bore you guys, but he gets to a point where he says you could basically use pots and pans to trigger for a human feel. And I guess he does have a point. I mean, like, a trigger really doesn't care if it's a drum, a pad, or a garbage can lid. It just needs that initial transient to line up a sample with. So yeah, that will work. There is definitely some truth to using live cymbals with an electronic kit, even if it is just a hi-hat. Well, some of my very earliest recordings were done with a Tama TechStart kit and an Alesis DM5, and we used live cymbals, and that definitely helped things out quite a bit. Of course, we didn't have the sample sets that we have now, so maybe this is something I should really reinvestigate at some point, is like live cymbals, but with sample pads using something like Get Good Drums or Slate or something like that, and see just exactly what we can get these days as opposed to how things were 20 years ago. I don't know, what do you guys think? You want to see something like that on this show? Might be worth taking a look at. But then again, the trick is once you record that is to not time align everything, and the temptation is always there. And these days I swear it's harder to not time align something and just leave it rather than quote unquote fix it.
Hi Glenn, is it possible to run the Orange Crush 120, which is a solid-state amp, directly into my Focusrite 2i2 interface just until I get enough money for a cab? I'm using the Ignite Emissary Cab IR.
Now, I am not an amp tech, so take this with a grain of salt, but it is a solid-state amp, so you can probably get away with not hooking a speaker up and going out of your effects send and into your interface directly that way and run your impulse response. I would still prefer to have a speaker hooked up so all that energy has someplace to go, but generally, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, tube amps definitely have to have a speaker hooked up when you take them off standby, but a solid-state amp, maybe not so much. At least I never ran into problems using solid-state amps in that fashion. Your mileage may vary, and again, if you guys have some information I'm missing, I would love to hear from you, and please set the record straight.
I still have no idea who Trapped is or what their music sounds like.
You should definitely consider yourself fortunate. I envy you, and so does the rest of the world.
Great to see these again. And dude, have you lost a bunch of weight? You look a lot slimmer. I missed a whole bunch of your videos. Due to being somewhat incarcerated. Yes, I'm a drummer if there was any question about it.
Yeah, I can't say I'm hugely surprised. And yes, I did lose a bunch of weight. And thank you so much for watching Stupid Musician Text. If you guys watched the show and you missed the episode, it was up there a week ago. It's fucking hilarious. It's the first one I've done in over a year. Had an absolute blast with it. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely check it out. And as for the incarceration thing, well, you know, that would definitely be low-hanging fruit. Drummer winds up in jail. All I can say is, you know, whatever mistake you made, I hope you figured out how to not do it again. I wish you the absolute best of luck, my friend.
Hey Glenn, what do you think about using a remote hi-hat stand to move the hats to the right side, right below or above the ride, so the drummer can do intricate, cool patterns between the hats and ride with the added benefit of reducing hat bleed into the snare mic, plus the cymbals can resonate with each other, produce a bit of a fatter sound on both the ride and the hats. Cheers from Atlanta, and fuck you, Glenn!
I love remote hi-hats on the right because I find it not only keeps the hat bleed out of the snare mic, I find the drummer can wind up on the snare because he's not doing crossovers like this. If he's over here like this, you can get a much stronger hit and an overall better snare sound. So when a drummer comes in, he's got two hi-hats, I'm like, fuck yes, that's fucking great. Now, I've seen some insane shit, like I remember doing a band called Assassinate the Following, and the drummer was left-handed, but he played ambidextrously. So he'd play like this, and then he'd play like this, depending on where he was. And yeah, he had two hi-hats too. And you could always tell when he was playing with the snare on his left hand because it was always 10 times louder than when he played it with his right. But that anomaly in that guy's playing definitely contributed to that band's sound. So as much as it drove me insane, it did make them stand out.
Hey Glenn, I've been wondering how much gear, experience, plugins you need to have in order to offer mixing or recording services for money, of course, and how important getting real drums is when you're getting into recording. Thank you.
Well, I'd say, are you making your own records sound as good as you would like them? And would a band pay for that? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Would you pay for the sounds you're making? That's the important thing. As for the real drums thing, I don't think that seems to be a big of a sticking point with a lot of bands these days as it used to be. Unlike before, you know, we really didn't have the option of using samples. There are a lot of really great sample sets out there. So you can get away with that. I mean, like if you're triggering a real kit, I'd probably go that direction if you don't know what the fuck you're doing and go with live cymbals. That might be exactly what you need to do. Recording real drums is not an easy thing to learn, and it takes a lot of practice. But no better time than the present to get started. Good luck, dude.
Hey Glenn, how do you approach recording instruments where the player has to be in control of the intonation? Horns, strings, brass, fretless, etc. Obviously, you'd want the musician to be technically proficient enough to be able to make it through their part no hassle, but with imperfections, what do you think?
I have recorded a bunch of different musicians like that. I've had violins, cello, and Celtic fiddle come in, and usually the people who are playing those kind of stringed instruments can really nail their shit. I got to do a Celtic record, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago by a band called Celtic Cross, and the fiddle player was just a fucking monster. His intonation, the guy was just laser precise. So it's just like, yep, hit record, sit back, watch him do his thing. Easy session. I've had a bass player come in and play a little bit fretless who wasn't really a fretless player. And we definitely needed to use a little bit of auto-tune, unfortunately. And that was back in 2004 on a certain record. I'm not going to mention names, but, you know, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do and make it passable. So it depends on the musician. Generally, though, I'd like to leave in the imperfections if I can. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. It really does help out a huge amount into just making the channel grow and let me do this full time. So any support you can give would be greatly appreciated. Again, subscribe button, big help. If you got a comment, you got a question, leave it below, or better yet, join my Discord. And until next week, please stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, and we will all get through this. I'll see you next time.